Hello, happy Monday. So tonight's topic, there's no such thing as overtraining. In my opinion, and it's a bit controversial, but overtraining is an overused term. Does it exist? Well, maybe. But here's the thing, it's not always a bad thing, right? Otherwise we wouldn't have champions and we wouldn't have great sports stars and all that sort of stuff here. The trick here is that there's bouts of intense training that's also balanced with the right recovery. Hence, why we typically see athletes and sports people have off seasons and so on. We also see professional athletes having quite a lot of, active recovery in there as well. And why? And because the problem isn't usually exercise or even the intensity of the exercise. The problem is not balancing stress with recovery. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go balls to the wall training every session and, in the words of 8-time Mr Olympia Lee Haney, the aim is to stimulate, not to annihilate, right? And therefore the trick is for us to understand the difference between training and straining. So what is the difference between training and straining? Well, as you probably know, exercise is a stressor to the body, right? And it's usually a good one, but it's a stressor nevertheless. And if you exercise intensely or often, you add stress to the body that may already be stress from other things like work, relationships, travel, late nights, and so on. Like most of us don't have the luxury to go and have ice baths and massages and physio and everything like that in terms of also exercising, right? Because we've only got so much time. Obviously we all have very busy lives and we have lots of things and lots of responsibility. And so, this isn't a bad thing. Exercise can help relieve stress. But in terms of physical demand, we still need our bodies to recover from all the stress that we experience across everything, right? And how well you recover and how much recovery you might need depends on what is known as your allostatic load. So how much total stress you're under at any given moment. In other words, on those days where you're, maybe late for work and your boss has yelled at you and you spilt sauce on your favourite shirt and you're up all night caring for a sick child, and then you went to the gym and tried to nail a PR, well, you're probably not going to nail it, are you? And if you do, you better plan for some serious recovery time. On the other hand, if you've slept well, woke up to sunshine, birds chirping, had a terrific breakfast and strutted to the gym feeling like a rock star, your body will likely recover faster and better from your workout. And you probably enjoy it more too, right? The right amount of exercise at the right intensity and the right time, it means that when we train, we learn, we get healthier and stronger. On the other hand, too much exercise with too high intensity too often without adequate recovery means that we strain, we stress, we shut down and we break down. And so it's important to understand as well how our bodies actually deal with overtraining. So overtraining isn't a failure or, the fate of the weak-minded. It's our bodies have complex feedback loops and elegant shutdown systems that actively prevent us from overreaching or pushing ourselves too hard. And we have two systems at play, right? We have our central nervous system, which acts a bit like, a car engine regulator. And the engine on the car revs too high for too long, it kind of shuts down. And if we exercise too much, our brain tries to protect our bodies and our muscles by reducing the rate of nerve impulses, so we can't or we don't want to move as much. And we certainly can't work as hard. And then, of course, we get the fatigue. And that's the result of our energy system depletion and all metabolic byproduct accumulation, so things like lactic acid and all that sort of stuff. Makes your muscles feel really tired, lethargic and weak. And I guess using our car analogy, it's sort of a bit like running out of gas, right? Sometimes as well, there's our ANS system as well, or automatic nervous system as well. And sometimes when we pull our central nervous system up too high, our ANS wants to try and balance that out too, which, means that sometimes if you push too far, you can actually, get that feeling where you can't get out of bed, right? So training too much and too frequently and too intensely without prioritising any recovery means that our stress never subsides, right? We've got nowhere to bounce back from. We never get a chance to put a gas on in the tank or, change the oil. We just drive and keep pushing harder on the pedal, hoping that we're going to get a different result. And if we were to, look under the hood of our cars or the bonnets of our cars, we might see that things like, our connective tissues are creaky and frayed, we've got a lot more inflammation in the body, our battery feels really drained, and our hormones have gone down. We might feel a bit of catabolic stuff happening as well, and cortisol levels have gone up, right? And what we mean by catabolic is that our muscles are breaking down rather than anabolic, which helps us to grow, right? And then, physiological results, you might have like blood sugar up and downs, you might suffer from depression or anxiety or racing thoughts, you might have trouble sleeping and or getting up really early, or waking up early because your body just is so fired up, it just wants to keep going, but you also don't feel rested enough to do that. So it's almost like you're wired, I guess is probably a better way of saying it. You know, you're probably going to get random food cravings and maybe even trouble controlling your eating. You might have a lower metabolism due to decreased thyroid and hormone output. And then, of course, you know, things like for women, you might have disruption to menstrual cycles, or, you know, and for men as well, you know, and women, is just that sense of a mojo being less, right? You've got less oomph. So here's the thing, though. You don't get to decide if you need recovery or not. Your body will kind of decide for you. So it's really important that we actually build recovery into your plan, or otherwise our bodies will just eventually force it, right? And the more extreme, you know, your training in terms of everything else you've got going on, the more you pay via potentially illness or injury or exhaustion, right? And the more severe the payback, the more time off you'll need from the exercise. And then that can be disruptive as well, because then the next time you come back to exercise, you feel like you have to go harder again, and then you've got this kind of all or nothing mentality, right? And so what happens is that your car has basically stalled, if you were to use that as an analogy, or worse, you know, we've got to put it in the shop for some serious repair and recovery, right? So the key takeaways here are that, you know, I'm still of the opinion that overtraining doesn't really exist, as long as you have adequate and deliberate recoveries in place. So I feel like we have overstraining rather than overtraining. And that means that, you know, like athletes, you need to be deliberate in scheduling activities to help you, you know, regulate your central nervous system, for example. You need to be on top of your nutrition for growth, repair and recovery. You need sufficient sleep and downtime, other self-care activities. And then I would also throw in as well that, you know, you need proactive health management, such as, you know, physio, massage and other allied health services, and potentially some proactive medical checkups as well. You know, you want to know how because all those things that we mentioned where you've got signs of overtraining, well, you're not going to be able to lift up the hood, so to speak, yourself, right? You can't go in and just kind of take a blood test to go, oh, look at that, my hormones are down, right? Like, so you're going to need medical intervention for that. So I guess with all that in mind, I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are. Do you guys think that you've ever overtrained, that you're overtraining now? Do you think it exists? Or, you know, have you ever felt overstrained in life in general? And how's that impacting you? Let us know in the comments.